Okay.
Hi, I'm Mary Burns, and I'm 81 years old. Bernie has already done a history of his life, and I thought I'd do a short history of mine, what I remember. I was born in Worcester, Massachusetts on March 9th, 1929, on a snowy day, as I've been told. I was baptized by a priest who named me many saints, gave me many saints to watch over me. My name was Mary Teresa Frances Bridget, and then O'Malley, of course. My first memory, some of the memories that I can have right now, once when I was 3 years old, and I really think I remember this, I went out on the porch, Mother put me out on the porch, and I took all my clothes off. And the man next door, who had a bakery, called her up and said, "Mary's on the porch without any clothes on, you better get her in." So that was one of the things I remember. When I was the first of the family to be born, first of the children, and then I was followed by Betty and Ann and Jane and Jimmy, who were twins. We lived on a hill, and I remember the milk wagon and the rag wagon. A man used to go around saying rags, 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 with the horse. They were driven by horses. And on a snowy day, it was very slippery, and the horses slid, and the wagon went down the street. I don't know what happened to the horses, but it didn't look too good. Or at least we thought it was kind of interesting. When I was 5, I started school at Ascension, and I went to Ascension School, grammar school, and high school, all through the 9th, 10th, 12th grade. And it was an all-girls school, and it was run by nuns, and we used to wear uniforms. And the uniform that we had was a navy blue dress with a celluloid collar, which you could take off and wash with Babo or something to keep it white. Betty was, I said that, Betty was next to be born, and then Ann and the twins. And the twins were very cute, and I tried to be their teacher and teach them poems to say from my mother and father. My mother and dad didn't go out very much, but when they did go out, it was wild because there were so many of us. My mother also had a helper who came in every day and helped her with the cleaning and the cooking and whatever. I don't know cooking, but cleaning. And her name was Miss Grogan, and she was a little tiny Irish woman. And at night when she went home, my mother would give her food that she had left over to take home to her sister, who also was a little small Irish woman. Okay, when I graduated from high school, then I went to Worcester State Teachers College. And there I worked for after school I worked for my Aunt Tess. My Aunts Tess and Liz had a clothing store, which they called E.A. Sullivan. And that was one of the things both Betty and I did to pay something for the help in the family. My grandmother was their sister, Mary Elizabeth, I think was her name. And she was very nice, and I remember her well. And she used to make pies, which were delicious, and pot roast. And she used to make dresses for my sisters and I, and she would leave like a slit in the armpit. I guess that was maybe because they didn't have band in those days, I don't know. She and my grandfather lived near us on Providence Street with their son, Uncle Billy. And my grandfather had one arm, and he used to sit by the window and sing Irish songs all the time. So I knew quite a few Irish songs when I grew up. my Uncle Billy was nice to me, but he wasn't always nice to my mother, or I don't know, there was a problem there somehow. Then, I used to pray that all my relatives, my grandmother and grandfather, and my mother and father would live to be 500, but it didn't work out that way, so I had to stop praying for that. In school, I was the biggest girl in the class, and they always had me at the end of the line. And one day, we were supposed to be getting shots, and I was at the end of the line waiting for my turn, and I got frightened or something, and I ran away from school and ran up to my grandmother's, and she talked me into going back to school so I wouldn't get in trouble for that. After high school, I went to Worcester State Teachers College and had a few good friends like Anne Marie Owens and Ellen McKeown. And when I was a sophomore in high school, I met my other half, Bernie, at a Carol Club dance, and I thought he was pretty nice. And when I met him, and we kept up with each other for 5 years, while he went to Idaho and went to Martha's Vineyard, and finally, after 5 years, we got engaged. And there's another story with that one. The night he gave me the diamond was very eventful because after he gave me the diamond, we got in an argument, and I threw my ring in the snow, and he looked for it for a long time after I went in the house that night. And in the morning he called, and my sister answered the phone, and he said he wanted to talk to me, and she said no, he couldn't. But then I was coming down the stairs, and I said, okay, let him talk to me. So that was the end of that. And that was the beginning of it all. And we did get married on August 7th, 1954. And we moved to Alexandria, Virginia, where Bernie was in the Pentagon, and I taught 4th grade in Arlington, Virginia. Down there, we wanted a first baby, and finally we got started with him. And then we had 3 in a row. First John, who was a cute little boy, good-natured and smart. Then Mary, the second, who was very pretty, but a handful. Bernie spent many nights holding her in his lap, trying to get her to go to sleep while she pulled the hair on his chest. And Susan, who was sweet and very quiet and nice. After a while, we heard people say that was enough, and so that was enough. Okay, then we moved to Worcester, where we used to live, and we were there for a while, and then Bernie wasn't happy with his job, and so he decided he was going to look for another job. Well, we were living in West Boylston at the time, and that's where Susan was born. It was in a pretty house in a pretty place, and except we had water problems all the time. Okay, so then the kids went to school at Helen Mixter, and Bernie decided he wanted to find another job. And I said, okay, if you're going to move near the ocean. So one day he came home from a trip, and he said, we're going to move to Des Moines, Iowa. And it took a while to get used to that, but we were all together, so we did move. But on the way out to Des Moines, Iowa, on the way out to Des Moines, Iowa, we stopped at the Kempton's house in Buffalo. And after that, we tied the suitcases to the top of the car and started on the way to Iowa. And we're going along, and all of a sudden the suitcases fell off the top of the car. And I could look in the back mirror and see the trucks going around the suitcases. So we did get the 2 suitcases back. And we did go to Des Moines, Iowa. And we lived here for 44 years plus. And first we had, then the children started to grow up, and Susan married Hal Axney and had a daughter, Stephanie, and a son, Andy. And Mary moved to California because she was a marathon runner, and she wanted to get away from Iowa. And she met Chris Prine, and she had a son, Bobby. And then John married Pam, who already had a daughter, Christy. So they're all here now, and except for Mary, who's out in California, but we get to see her a lot. And this is about it. We're here, and I think I finished what I can remember.
Why don't you tell a few things about your teaching, just offhand, about the that you liked and you didn't like, the nice principles and things.
Oh, my teaching. Okay, I taught many years in West Des Moines, and first it was at Hillside, which was in a building that just had sixth graders in it, and that was kind of wild there because a lot of sixth graders. But it was pretty good when with some of the principals, like Bob Olson was so-so, Jim Mays was good, Amy Gladfelty was really good, and then there was Harrison Cass, who was a pain in the neck, a pain anywhere. So finally I retired when I was 59,
Yeah.
and I've been retired ever since. I volunteered for a while at the historical building, but now I'm pretty much staying home and growing old. And we moved to an apartment, and we're living here now.
Okay, good. I'm not sure if you mentioned, there might be just one line as to the date you were born and your mother and father's name. You were born?
I was born March 9th, 1929. My mother and father were Jim and Mary O'Malley. Actually, my mother was Mary Quinn before she married Jim O'Malley.
Okay. Okay, that's very good.
Okay?
I think so. Why don't we stop here for a while? Maybe you think of some other things. You think of anything else?
Then I'm glad it's over.
Okay, it's still running, so
Oh.
you want to say anything else?
No, except I have a very nice husband. Everybody tells me that. I have a wonderful husband. If we ever got any problems, they'd blame it on me for sure.
They would, yeah.
Mhm.
And you used to like to play bridge.
Yeah, I like to play bridge. I used to like to play bridge, but I had a stroke.
Yeah.
And so I'm not as smart as I used to be, and I have trouble remembering things, so we
You
don't
did
play
pretty
bridge
good
together.
remembering all of this stuff, though.
Yeah, yeah.
How
But it's
about
remembered.
going out to Harrah's gambling once in a while?
Oh, well, that's Bertie's thing. I go,
Yeah, but
he
you
gives
enjoy
me
it.
money and I go, but I try to save all the money so I can bring it home and spend it.
What do you like the most at Harrah's, though?
The meal,
The meal, yeah. the
great
buffet.
big beautiful buffet, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, you're still active in church? You still go to church?
We still go to Sacred Heart Church, right?
Yeah.
And we go to the over 50s, and we have some friends there, the Dailies and the Fosses, and oh yeah, and the House, who are getting pretty old and they can't go very far, but they still go some.
And the Butlers?
And the Butlers,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Helen Kate?
And Helen Jasek, who was John and Mary's teacher, and always wants to talk about Mary, but doesn't ask to talk about John, because I think John drove her crazy when he was in school. Because John always was the cut-up person, always made people laugh.
Yeah.
Still does. It's enough now.
I think you did pretty good, yeah. Okay, I'm going to turn it off now so you can say goodbye to everybody.
Bye, everybody. It's nice talking to you.